Welcome everyone to our basement talks. You probably noticed behind me that my basement looks a little bit different, and that's because I'm not in my basement. I am actually in my parents' basement. My son and I are here hanging out with parents, grandparents, and I'm sure many of you with children understand the importance of staying connected with our parents. But today we're not talking about hanging out with grandparents. Today we're going to be talking about something else, but I'm here with my co-host for the Learning Vibes podcast, Dave. Dave, how are you doing today?
How are you, Annie? You're a little bit hollow and ringy today in that basement.
I know they don't have anything down here. I'm trying to talk quiet so I don't echo too much.
Oh, I'm so jealous of that. I love clean spaces, and my basement is just an accumulation of stuff. So I am jealous that your parents can do that. Hey, everyone, do check us out at www.learningvibespodcast.weebly.com and like us on Facebook. And we should say, Annie, since this particular basement talk will be coming out on the first Wednesday in June, we just released an episode of the Learning Vibes podcast with 3 amazingly cool librarians. And prior to the recording this podcast, I'm not sure I would have used the phrase amazingly cool and librarians in this,
all in the same sentence,
but they were. So please, wherever you get your podcasts, everyone, check out what libraries are all about in the creativity age and how they've changed. But in this basement talk, we're talking about discovering your city, state, and region, and how even in a time of pandemic, we can find a positive in discovering those things around us almost because of the pandemic, right, Annie?
Absolutely, yeah. So when we were planning this, I was telling Dave that we had some really major vacations planned this summer and we canceled them. We had them in June, July, and August. We were supposed to go to Europe. We had some really big ones. And when we canceled them, with my need for travel, I knew I needed to do something. And so we live in the state of Illinois. So I went online and I searched and thought, okay, what are some cool things we can do? And some of the things I found I would have never sought out to find. So we're going to go hiking in Zion, Illinois, that has some pretty cool dunes. And we're going to go hiking in another place in Southern Illinois. We're going to go to a drive-in movie theater. And so some of ththese things, as I was researching my own state and my own community, they're all able to be social distance. We can wear masks if that's how it's required. It's outside. It's going to get us active. And it's really like what Dave said, we're doing this almost because of the pandemic. If the pandemic wasn't here, we would be doing our trips outside of our state and outside of our community. And because of the pandemic, I have found probably 10 to 15 new parks that we can go hiking in that I never knew were in my own town, my own city. And so I'm really excited. While it's definitely not going to be a similar summer to what we're used to, I'm excited because I am planning these day trips. And so if you are a travel advocate or really need that sense of travel, like I know I do, being able to discover your city, seeing what's actually in your city that you haven't discovered yet, going on websites, finding parks. I know, like I said, we're in Illinois, so I just searched top 8 parks in Illinois, or there's a website only in Illinois, so it's like unique things. Like in Casey, Illinois, they have Guinness World Record things, so the largest things. So the largest chair, the largest this, the largest that. Okay, that's a cool day trip. Now, we would have never decided to go to little teeny tiny Casey, Illinois. That's out of our way from going to Chicago or St. Louis, but discovering that I think will be fun. So Dave, I know you have older kids at home. Are you guys planning kind of anything to do traveling this summer?
It is something we're only starting to talk about, nothing on the books yet, but I just think for our listeners, your example of Casey, Illinois is a great one. I had no idea they had that, and I've lived close to Casey, Illinois most of my life. So for our listeners, it makes me wonder what's around their community in town that they've been right next to, and they can use this time of pandemic to find that positive of things near them that they didn't know about. I think that's an exciting opportunity because of
Right.
COVID-19.
And I'm kind of approaching it from the mindset of, like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40, 50 years ago, when traveling wasn't as big. Just thinking about, I'm going to stay in this area. What can I do within this area? And I think that being able to change my mindset to think of it that way, rather than saying, I'm going to fly all the way to Europe and we're going to discover that. This is still a really interesting place to discover. And so how can we discover that? And how can we really dive into that? And then just kind of watching what other people do on social media and saying, oh, that looks cool. Let me like that page and figure out where they're at. And really just kind of, social media is a great way that I have been connecting, but then also just searching on websites and seeing, oh, what are other people doing that makes me comfortable? Because our family is one that is still wearing masks in public and still trying to limit our interactions with other people, just because I have a son who's in a high risk area. Just doing that and kind of discovering what we can discover, I think is really fun.
Yeah, and discovering new things, turning the pandemic into a positive to discover that which we wouldn't have discovered in more normal times.